Hello and welcome to the official Scottish Rugby podcast coming to you from BT Murrayfield. With me again is Al Kellock, Lindsey Smith and Chris Paterson. On this week's show we hear from Blair Kinghorn, Sam Johnston, Jake Kerr, Shade Munro and Gregor Hunter. Here we are again after a bumper weekend of rugby. Mossy, good weekend for you?
Yeah, pretty busy. Obviously the internationals, I'm down in Galashiels on Friday night for the club international game against Ireland, and I saw the under-20s game as well, and obviously here on Saturday for the main international. You were on commentary with Andrew Cotter and Brian Moore. He was enjoying the scrums, I think, wasn't he?
I'll maybe come on to that in a wee while, but yeah, it's a lot of preparation goes into that, and then you have to be reactive at the moment. But yes, it was funny, wasn't it, the game? I mean, the good bits there was a lot of excellent, really kind of top class moments, and other parts of the game, mainly around the kind of reset the scrum, as I say we'll talk about. It was quite quiet, quite almost lulled at some point, but brilliant result, brilliant bonus point win and weekend one.
Al, you were here at BT Murrayfield on Saturday. You had a good day?
It was a great day. Most of the game day for me is geared around the commercial side of things and the guests we bring into the stadium. I did a bit of work with Doddy in the Thistle Suite, which is always great fun. We had Marco Bortolami representing Italy, a man I know very well from both on and off the park, and then I host a business club, so we had Doddy and Marco come and join us in there for a bit of chat ahead of the game. So yeah, all in all very enjoyable, good result. Kniffy 15 minutes towards the end, but I'm sure we'll chat about that a bit later.
And Linz, you were at Scotstoun on Friday night, is that right?
Yeah, I was. I was there for the women's game. Did a bit of co-coms on BBC Alba as well. Not the result the girls wanted, but lots of positives to take forward into next weekend. And then obviously watched the men's game on Saturday. Great result, good way to kick off the Six Nations.
Let's move back to the game here at BT Murrayfield on Saturday. A bonus point win for Scotland. Guys, what are your thoughts on that result?
Good result. I think we've only ever won our opening game in the Six Nations twice since 2000, obviously. So to win that opening game is so important. You always hear about momentum and getting off to a good start, and it's thrown around that often. It sounds like a cliche, but it's so true. The games come thick and fast. You don't have a lot of time to train and prepare between the games because you're recovering out the back of one and then tapering off towards the next one. So it'll be one or two tough sessions, but a lot of the detail and kind of accuracy you're looking to put right from one week to the next comes in kind of walkthroughs or quite a lot of detail on the computer and stuff. So physically you can't do a huge amount. So a good start and a winning start is vital. Only third time in Six Nations history, as I say, we've got that win, and a bonus point win to boot. As I said earlier on in the intro, it was a difficult game to sum up, really, because some of the bits were excellent and other bits obviously needed work. I think across the three games, maybe not so much the Ireland-England game, certainly the French-Wales game was quite similar. The first game in the Six Nations is often a bit of a lottery in terms of what level of performance you're going to get, and how do you, when you've been involved in different chains of thought, how do you prepare for that? Do you play a trial the week before? Well, no, you can't, because there's games on, there's club games on, and short of playing an international week before, you can't get up to speed. So that first game can often be a banana skin, it can often be inaccurate, and at times all three games were inaccurate, but to come away with a bonus point win, I think it's really good.
I quite like the way it happened as well, though. I think that come out with 5 points, that's the key, as you say, the momentum moving into the next set of games. Actually, the way the guys approach the week as well, they're coming back in first thing Monday morning and feeling good, but they know there's stuff to work on. The Scotland performance was, and Gregor's already said it was by no means a complete performance. So knowing that they have to get better, even though the 5 points is there, I think is a great place to be in. And the same from an Italy point of view as well. The challenge you've got to go now play everybody but us. They probably took a fair amount of confidence from that last 15 minutes or so, which hopefully will lead them into some better performances as the tournament goes on.
They were ill. They were carrying a bit of illness as well, the Italians. There was, I think, 2 or 3 maybe even left in Rome before they left. 2 or 3 guys were ill in transit, and obviously when they got here, so that maybe it would have disrupted them. They lost Tito Tabaldi just before the kick-off,
Palazzani, the scrum half who came in, was one of the guys who'd been ill and under the doctor's care, I think, as late as the Wednesday in the week.
Has he also not played Six Nations rugby for a wee while as well? So he was coming into a competition that he's maybe
was it
a couple of seasons,
3 seasons, I think.
Played 80 minutes as well.
Yeah, he knew that there was no scrum half cover either, so he knew going into that game that 2 days before he was ill, that he was going to have to do the 80 as long as his body carried him through. And the Italians did improve, but I think, as Al said, that conceding those 3 late tries isn't ideal, but it really focuses the mind and allows you to, I suppose, as be coaches, not be harder on the players because they won't need it, but certainly as soon as you drop off or give the opposition quick ball or reasonably good ball, anyone can punish him.
I think the coaches do get the opportunity, especially Matt Taylor, from a defensive point of view. He will not be happy with that in the slightest. I spoke to him after the game, and he will be hard on the boys and reasonably inexperienced
the boys
teams.
Won't necessarily need it though, you'd hope.
You would hope not, but it gives him the opportunity to a few home truths. The only downside of it is when we get to the end of the tournament, who knows, that points difference might come back and sting us. Regardless of where it is or what position you're going for. That might be something we'll look back on and regret.
Yeah, we chatted to Chris, Hoggy and Blair after the game, and they were obviously delighted with the result, but there was a clear your phone going.
Shane Munro, do you want to take it live?
Yes.
We chatted with Hoggy and Blair and Chris Harris after the game, and yes, they were really happy with the result, but they were really disappointed with those 3 tries. So most of your point is valid. They know what they need to fix, they know what they need to do. So this week will be all about wronging those rights and making sure in those final elements of the game they can get it right, because if you let Ireland in at that point in the game, you won't win that game, will you? Hoggy's disallowed try, a lot of talking points around that in social media. Lindsay, what do you make of that whole situation?
Yeah, I think if you've watched the game and you see that the angle he runs at, you've also got Ali Price who comes in, and maybe unknown to him, he kind of runs a blocking line, and I think that's what the refs picked up on straight away. Obviously Hoggy doesn't hear that, keeps going, but it was a superb finish. Unlucky not to have the try allowed.
How sharp was Hoggy though, eh? Like, that was his 3rd or 4th counter attack. He'd already been, the try that he scored, he actually had to run round 2 defenders or take the long way to the ball, like from Finn's grabber kick through, and still beat the winger who was just going straight at the ball. He was so sharp, and then that break was brilliant, because it was actually it wasn't a bad kick from Italy, but he covered the ground, he got there, and you could just see the intent that he had when he carried to get outside. Now I think the try should have stood. The ref, I think, apologised to Hoggy afterwards.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Which I think is a good thing from a referee. Yeah, it's frustrating to hear, but that's good. I actually thought Luke Pearce's interaction with the players throughout the game was pretty good on the whole. Stayed calm. We talk about scrums at the start, they could have been sharpened up a little bit, but I think his interaction with the players was good, and that's frustrating to hear that you've chalked off a try that probably should have stood, but at least he's admitted it. But I think it should have stood. I think the reason he probably did blow his whistle is because Ali Price came flying out the defensive line as quickly, so there was obviously something happened, and more often than not, one of the players will see a blocking line or an escorting line will try and run across the path of the defender. I don't think Ali did that. I know Al disagrees with me. I actually think the Italian hooker aimed for Ali and bowled him over, knowing that he could get nowhere near Hoggy.
I don't think he was going to make the tackle, so I agree. I think the try should have stood, although in saying that, when you listen to it, when you listen back earlier on, the whistle goes early, so whether the Italians stop a little bit, now you give Hoggy the benefit of the doubt that he would have finished it anyway. But Ali, the only thing that goes against Ali is he does have a wee look. He has a wee look to see where the smart line is to run. But yeah, to your point, it should have gone. But on the Italians' tactics, now, first half especially, and second half you saw it there as well, they were kicking deep. And now at times Hoggy was kicking it back, or we were kicking it back, and I felt actually we kicked. Well, you're probably better to grab this more than me. I felt as if we kicked back a little bit too much.
Let's hear it.
Are you sure?
Well, we've got arguably the best counter-attacking fullback in the world. I don't believe that a team should be kicking him that type of ball. They were giving him the ball on the halfway line. He's head up. Now, defensive
coming
line,
forward onto it as well.
Coming forward onto it, he's head up, been able to pick a gap and going straight through. I don't think we'll see many other teams during the course of this championship kick as much ball to Hoggy.
No, I'd agree, and it sounds simple, but you have to be in the right place to catch those as well. So the management of the back three and the work rate off the wings. We saw Tommy didn't get a huge amount of touches in the game, but his work rate in order to get back in the right positions with Blair and the midfield working back was really good. It's a tactic, wasn't it? I mean, you saw Scotland kick from that middle third quite a lot to put the ball in behind Italy, therefore knowing that they were likely going to kick out. And I thought the set piece strikes were excellent as well. Some of the dummy lines and set piece attacks were excellent. Or if the ball doesn't go out, you're kicking to, as you say, probably the best attacking fullback or counter-attacking fullback in world rugby.
The first half, it was a game that was a solid game of rugby. It was controlled, it was structured. I presume that would be the tactics from a Scotland point of view to make sure that they didn't get into throw the ball everywhere type of game against Italy. Does that then lead it on for Hoggy to run back a wee bit more than it does? I'm probably looking at you, Moss. You've been having experience at fullback. Do you go into the second?
I think about having a break.
Do you think Moss?
Do you go into the second half with a different mindset because it's breaking up a wee bit at fullback?
No, I don't think so. I think you do the right thing at the right time, and that's stick to your structures and make decisions in the moment. But like I've felt at a time that for the dominance Scotland had in the first half, we could have really should have been further ahead. Two opportunities, definite opportunities missed. I think that Gelko's disallowed trying the TMO was right. He did kind of propel himself forward with his knees. So I don't think anything changed at the start of the second half. I just thought that the execution was a little bit better. And having looked at the game quite closely again last night, Italy didn't come off the line in defence and put us under a huge amount of pressure. That might have been because of the fatigue and the lethargy they had, but they didn't really impose their defence like Ireland will this weekend, or certainly like England did to Ireland. And that gives you more time in the ball, and you don't know that until you're into the game. So Scotland, I think, would have planned or would have expected more line speed and a bit more aggression from the Italian defence, and you don't know that until you're into it. Maybe that was mentioned at half time as well, which gives you confidence to keep attacking with the ball in hand. I think Finn was outstanding again. His decision making and the management of that. We're getting pretty deep into rugby chat here, Jimmy, but the management of that middle third, where sometimes we've been guilty of overplaying and trying to force an attack or force a break. The kicking strategy in there, and whether it was from Finn or whether it was from Greg or out wide, Tommy Seymour put a couple of good grubber kicks through. But you were given the time to do that. You still have to do it. You still have to execute it. You still have to be on top of your game like the guys were. And Finn's decisions were exceptional. That delayed pass to Josh Strauss for, was it Chris Harris's try? Some of the detail was unbelievable, but the pressure that will come this weekend will be far greater, and I've no doubt that Finn could do it again. The
kicking coming back will be far greater this weekend as well. I felt that we won the territory battle in that first half. That was key. The Italians didn't really look like scoring in that first half, and 60-70% of the game was played in their half. They were defending from it, and we've got great kickers across the board. Ireland will play a very structured game. Ireland will want to try and win that territory battle. So for us to be able to get at least parity in that, we need to have Finn and Hoggy and Greg or whoever's selected making sure that they're kicking well and the chases is good. One guy I wanted to pick up on, we talked about Finn, about Stewart, about Blair Kinghorn's hat-trick as well, which he did brilliantly to take all them. But for me, the standout forward was Jamie Ritchie. I thought his performance, absolutely. He's 22 years old and he looked as if he'd been out there 100 times. He was a threat at every breakdown that he could be, but he was making great defensive reads as well. I'm a big fan of Jamie. I think he's got a huge future.
He also was his line, the lines that he runs at as well in attack was he set up a try, didn't he? His line through pass on to Blair, I think it was a brilliant bit of play, wasn't it?
A great line, yeah. He's looked up and he's seen the gap. I mean, a lot of rugby now will encourage those first ball carriers to run out the way and fall out the way so the clear's good. But Jamie's looked up and he's seen a gap. Now, to have the strength and the presence of mind to stay on his feet to get that offload away to Greg, I mean, that's what makes a try. If not, it's a breakdown in the 22, and who knows what goes from there. But yeah, he's got untold amount of ability, both as a kind of standard 7 or an out-and-out 7 where he sniffs for the ball and hunts for the ball as well as those touches.
Just on Blair Kinghorn, he became the first Scottish player to score a hat-trick in the Championship since Italy's introduction in 2000. What do you make of Blair, Linz?
I thought he was fantastic on Saturday. He finished his tries really well, and he worked hard all day to get into a position to be able to score those tries. So yeah, I think he's a really exciting talent, and hopefully scores a few more tries in this competition.
The getting into position, that kick from Finn was absolutely brilliant. No, I'd like to think even I might have finished that, but to
No
your point,
chance.
to your point, you've got to
no
be, you've got to be in
chance.
the right place to get it. The other thing that Blair's performance does is it'll give Gregor a headache, because Sean Maitland's likely to come back,
Yeah.
and if he does, then do you put him in and drop Blair on the back of a man in a match hat-trick performance? That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, because I think Blair, you will know more, Blair prefers to play 15. I think his personal preference is to play 15, but obviously with Hoggy being there, there's a lot of competitiveness. As a player, when you're not playing out of position but you're being played somewhere else, how challenging is that?
It depends on the team strategy, and it depends on what you're asked to do. I think Scotland at the moment, it doesn't really matter if you're full back or wing. I think they're very interchangeable. I think they work hard off their wings, they work as a unit, as a back three, but other teams, if your role's really defined, then it can be quite difficult, especially if maybe you're used to getting more possession as a fullback than you do as a wing. You then try and get yourself in the game, and you almost go against the structure by chasing the ball, thinking as an individual, and then lo and behold you'll be exposed if there's a turnover or whatever. But I think the beauty is that we've got our best players on the field, and we've almost got too many good players for the number of positions, but you're going to need them across certainly Six Nations and undoubtedly a World Cup campaign. So the more experience the guys get, the better, and the more times they play well and with alongside each other, the better for Scotland. But it can be difficult if you're playing out of position and you don't feel as if you're influencing the game as much as you would like. But that's where the strategy and the tactics you play with kind of have to suit what you're trying to do.
He'll want to start. I mean, he'll want to force his way into the team. There's a huge amount of competition in the whole of the back three. He's got 3 British Lions to go up against. Puts in performances like that, though, he's certainly going to put his hand up.
How good is it though for Scotland now that we've got that much competition in those positions? It's starting to make it interesting and push those players on.
The depth at 15 is normally dreadful. Is that what you're saying? In the past?
No. But those players are now pushing other players on to keep working hard, keep pushing on.
Yeah, surrounded by great players, you're only going to play better. Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's a valid point. And
how well got on.
but on the point of depth though, Sam Skinner went off injured unfortunately as well. So another loss in the back row. What's our thoughts on that?
A big loss, and tactically it made it tough on Saturday as well, and we had 2 back rows on the bench, so Sam was clearly covering second row with the ability to move up, so second row should have seen him going off pretty early and know they had an 80-minute stint ahead of them. He's a great player. I saw him Exeter versus Munster, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. He's a traditional 6/second row, just giving the ball, go forward, does his basics incredibly well. Hopefully it's not that bad. It doesn't seem as if it's that bad an injury, but it forced a probably slight tactical change at the weekend as well.
After the game, we caught up with Blair Kinghorn on his 3 tries at BT Murrayfield.
Congratulations, 3 tries, must be thrilled with that.
Yeah, thrilled with it, but more importantly thrilled with the result that we got there. Massive start to the Six Nations, and we knew if we got 2 home games, first 2 games, so one of them's ticked off, so we'll review it and come back next Saturday.
It's quite raw just now, the game's just finished, but what's your overall take on that game? What do you make of it?
I think first half we showed some good things. We're a bit inaccurate, and but half time we came out of the blocks and we were more accurate with in the opposition 22, and we came away with some tries, which was really good. And last 20 we struggled a little bit, but held on for the win. So, but yeah, over the moon with the win.
Yeah, bonus point win, the first weekend of the Six Nations. Momentum's key, isn't it, for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't ask for anything more. Bonus point win at home gives us good momentum going into the rest of the competition.
Earlier this week, Al Kellock spoke with Jake Kerr and Sam Johnston.
We're here in the Oriam in the Scotland camp, joined by 2 of the first cappers from the weekend, and Sam Johnston and Jake Kerr, to talk through their first cap as well as all things Scottish rugby. Sam, it must have been a great experience for you the weekend.
Yeah, the whole day was just fantastic, wasn't it? From when we first got to the stadium with the bagpipes and the crowd, once we got out of the bus, to shaking Princess Anne's hand and looking at my girlfriend in the corner, knowing that she'd be super jealous because she loves the royal family.
Did you manage to find? I know your family flew over. Did you manage to find them beforehand when you were singing the anthem? Or?
Yeah, I saw the old boy around the 22 metre line. So he gave me a little wave, and so I knew where they were, which is always nice when you got to look at someone in the crowd. And
was that a tear to the eye moment, or were you pretty focused in the game still? Or?
Pre-game, walking off the bus and all that's probably the most nervous I was about the whole occasion. The actual, once we were on the field for the anthems and kick-off, it was fine, there to do a job, I suppose.
And Jake, a special weekend for you. Tell me, when did you find out it was going to happen? How long did you have
It was Tuesday that the team was announced. That's when I found out. Yeah, it was quite a funny moment, really.
And the team would have been announced and you would have been told not to tell anybody, but I assume you were allowed to phone the family, were you?
Yeah, I told my parents pretty much straight away, yeah. Really chuffed, obviously. And yeah, they managed to move all their stuff about and managed to make it to the game as well.
So Sammy, what do you do this week? You've got your first cap, you've achieved a dream. How do you then bring yourself back down to Earth to focus on Ireland?
Yeah, good question. I feel like I played back-to-back grand finals, so I feel like I should have 4 weeks off, but we got to go against Ireland this weekend, so pretty exhausted at the moment, but a bit of recovery today, and then pretty much get stuck in to some new players and Ireland's strengths and weaknesses tomorrow.
And Jake, we talk a little bit about your journey to your first cap, because it's slightly different to a lot of guys. You moved down to Loughborough and then took a year completely away from rugby before coming back to it. When I was in Edinburgh in the academy, I had problems with my right knee and I've had 2 shoulder drops on the same shoulder. How old are you?
I was only 20 years old when I left to go to Loughborough, so I think made the decision with my family, obviously, and coaches, that maybe I needed a bit of a rest. It was also to get a bit of a backup plan outside of rugby. So studied economics for a year with no rugby, and then picked rugby up the next year. I imagine, as well as freshening up the body, you talked about operations, freshened up the mind as well. It must have been a real desire to get back into it. I think initially I did need that break, because you work so hard to come back from injuries, to then have another injury straight away does take its toll on your mind. But as you say, by about 3 or 4 months after no rugby, I was missing something. I was training on my own, but it wasn't quite the same. So it was good to get back into it.
So to jump a little bit back before the game, Sam, the last time I saw you guys was at the team run. Now that's an opportunity to kind of dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure the details there for the game. But from your first cap point of view, how was the next kind of 24 hours? Was there a lot of nerves floating about? Did you sleep well the night before the game? Yeah,
it wasn't too bad. I think as professional rugby players, if you get the clarity right during the week, it sort of gets the mind ready. So once we got through that captain's run and you knew what you were doing, I think it's not too bad. Just go back to the hotel, and my parents were at the hotel, and sister and niece, so I just hung out with them for a little bit, and it was fun.
Sam, one tradition there's always been when you get your first cap is a song. Now, sometimes that song happens on the bus, other times it happens at the after-match dinner. How many songs have you had to sing over the last few days?
I think all up I had to sing 4 songs over the 2 days, which isn't a strength of mine. I'm not much of a karaoke man, so it's more getting the words right than the actual singing. That's the most nervous bit of the whole experience.
When we're looking at being your first cap, although you're a very experienced player, it's different. It's undoubtedly different. Was there anybody in particular that you leaned on that gave you some good advice that helped you through that game?
Someone like Mike Blair. I think when you talk to the coaching staff, he's only retired a few years ago, and he's at Glasgow, so having someone like him definitely helps sort of lighten the mood. And then again, if you look someone like Peter Horn in my position, vastly experienced both club and country, so we talk a fair bit because we're quite similar with how we want to play the game. So from a player's point of view, probably him during the week.
France 19, Wales 24. An interesting game at Stade de France. Al, did you see it?
I did. I watched it live. It was a really interesting game. I thought France were dreadful in that second half. 16-0 up at half time. The biggest deficit that any team's ever come back from in the Six Nations. And for me, a lot of it was about how poor France were in the second half. Now Wales did well and they grabbed the game back. Some of the interviews coming out of the Welsh camp would say it was purely down to them, but I think a lot of it was down to the France.
Individual errors by some of the French players, like was it North's first try?
Yeah,
he spilt it on the line pretty much, and he just had to touch it.
He had a couple of bad ones, and then for me, they just took their foot off the gas massively.
Yeah.
Now, do you think the game's won at half time? Hopefully. Well, I was going to say hopefully they won't make that mistake again, but we've still played them. So
it's funny because quite often the assumption's made, and quite rightly, the French as a whole aren't as fit as other teams because their squads are bigger and in their clubs, and they don't train at quite a level of intensity with their clubs, I think, than the kind of English and certainly our guys do. So quite often you'd point to fitness here, but I don't think it was fitness because the replacements they brought on played well as well. Like Lambie, the second row, Fico came on. There's 2 or 3 replacements that came on that actually played really well. So it was just basic individual error, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Everything they did well in the first half, they stopped doing.
Yeah.
I thought they were great in the first half. And the physicality that they had. They played a bit of rugby as well, the first 10-15 minutes. And then they got more structured. They, to your point, Mossy, about the finish, I mean, I think the pack was 954 kilograms. It's the biggest international pack ever assembled. They're going to tire a wee bit. But
Take a bit of feeding and all.
take a bit of feeding.
Pre-match meal.
But the subs came on and did well, but the whole game plan in the second half seemed to just go completely out the window. Now there was some really poor decisions made. Now the
Individual errors, I'd say.
Yeah. The second rows throwing missed passes. George North got 2 gifts in that game and picked up the man of the match on the back of it.
I think it'd be controversial, but I don't think Wales won that game. I think France lost that game.
I've already said that.
Wow.
I can't use that line. I've just said that.
Stealing that one. George North now has 19 championship tries in the Six Nations. Only 3 players have more. Do you guys know who the other 3 are?
Chris Paterson.
No, stop it. Six Nations. Brian O'Driscoll.
Brian Driscoll is top with how many?
Ashton.
How many?
No.
What was Northern 19? Driscoll with 22.
Brian Driscoll's got 26.
Oh, good effort. Strike rate. And then, so we need one more. Two
So
more.
2 more.
Shane Williams.
Shane Williams, correct.
Nice.
On how many?
Less between
19 and 26.
23.
22.
Oh, I knew Sunday was on 22.
And there's one more. I don't know if you'll get it.
Give me the country.
Scotland.
And Six Nations.
Well, define Six Nations.
Since 2000.
Playing in the Six Nations Championship.
Let me rephrase the question.
And 5 or 6
Championship.
nations.
5 or 6 nations.
Ian Smith.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ian Smith. How many tries did he get?
21.
24.
Mm.
And he only played 32 times for Scotland between 1924 and 1933.
Scotland's record try scorer alongside Tony Stanger.
Correct.
And how many? No, he scored 24 tries was the record. So how many is it? Sorry, on there in championship? 23, did you say?
So he scored 24 in the championship.
So he's obviously never got any tries in friendlies. Or
No.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
There you go. History lesson done.
Every day's a school day.
And just to end on France, they've now lost the last 7 of their 8 tests as well.
And they play England at Twickenham on Sunday.
Big game. Speaking of England, Ireland at the weekend, a huge game at the Aviva. England won though, huge result.
Brutal physicality, and no disrespect to the other 2 games, but it was on a different level in terms of physicality. I think certainly to the French game and our game, the physicality never dropped out the game. It started at a level and it kept going and kept going. Every collision was maximal, and I think England totally deserved to win. I think they tactically got it right. I think, listening to 2 or 3 of the commentators and stuff afterwards, was the last year's England defeat at Twickenham on St Patrick's Day to Ireland riled them, obviously, because quite like after the game kept coming back and they used that for motivation. So it's good to know some of the old-fashioned, remember how it feels quotes still ring true. But I also think that they played a bit quicker. They were more physical, and they'd identified that the back 3 for Ireland, and all, however strong they are and wonderful players, there's Earls, Stockdale and Henshaw aren't natural kickers from hand. So England were able to put the ball in behind, get that physicality in their chase, stop them, and get territory off the back of it. So England deserved to win, but just an absolutely brutal game.
It was an incredibly physical test match. Now England have got that extra day's recovery, which I think they'll need. England, they just stopped Ireland playing. I mean, it's so difficult for Ireland to play rugby. They pinned them back in their own half. The kick chase was incredible, not just from 1 or 2 players, but the whole line speed was brilliant. Whenever Ireland tried to look to play, they were struggling to get it outside of 12 because England were coming up so hard. When England put in a proper performance, now there's an awful lot of chat around England being back and what it's going to lead to. England have clearly got to back it up over the course of the Six Nations. From our point of view, though, we now bring Ireland here on the back of losing their first game in a long time. They'll be angry, but it adds to it, and it'll add to it for our boys as well.
Well, England have got 3 out of the 4 games at home as well. Obviously away in Cardiff, but they've got, as I said, the Blues at home. They've got Italy, Scotland and France all at home that they'll target. But yeah, that opening weekend lottery is over now. Everybody knows where everybody else's performance was in week 1, and I think
the pick of the performances of England, really, wasn't it?
Mano Tuolangi as well came back into the mix and seemed to have I think he adds to that physical element, doesn't he? Because for his position, he's just a bit of a wrecking ball, isn't he?
Tuolangi in the centre, the Vanapolo brothers, they've just got an ability to go forward, whether it's with the ball or in defence. They make it, they make those yards, and they did it time and time again. And that's clearly a very, very good Ireland team, a very physical Ireland team as well. One of their main strengths is their ability to put teams under pressure through sheer physicality. And England stepped up and above and beyond that. And the end of the game broke up, and at that stage England looked dangerous as well. I mean, that's an incredible backline they've got out there.
Let's move back to Scotland. Scotland women took on Italy women there on Friday night. Linz, you were co-com outside. How was the weather? Quite cold?
Yeah, it was alright where I was positioned. Probably a bit colder down on the field, but a bit of a mixed bag at Scotstoun. Some really good performances by some individuals. Lana Skeldon picked up player of the match. She was kind of solid all around the park. I think Scotland will be disappointed with that on Friday night, and we'll be looking to try and rectify that this weekend.
Lindsay, we talked physicality there about the Ireland-England game. The challenge on Friday night were a physical team.
Yeah.
How much is Jade Conkle missed in that? She's ability to point number 8 or to move into the front row at times as well. She seems to me, when you take Jade out, the teams the physicality is not where it needs to be. Jade's a big ball carrier. She's a big loss to the team when she's not playing. But it's also an opportunity for other girls to step up. So, Siobhan Catigan, she's had a couple of runs at 8 now, which would normally always be kind of Jade's starting position. But she played well on Friday night. She carried hard, she made yards, and I thought, she did really well, given that she doesn't always play at 8. It's kind of, I suppose, big boots to fill for her. But I thought she did really well, and needs a bit more game time under her belt within that position.
What will be a kind of key message? The scrum was good. I heard Shade saying that the scrum, he was pretty happy with how the scrum gone. And territory would be the territory. Maybe one thing you'd maybe want to work on, try and force Italy, or certainly Ireland this weekend, to make mistakes deeper or near their own line.
Yeah, scrum was solid. Line out was a little bit shaky at the start, but as the game went on, that got stronger. I think we maybe need to play a bit smarter with our kicking game and try and pin them back in the corners if we can.
Territory, especially in that first half, that put Scotland under a huge amount of pressure. The one positive I saw, especially from that first half, is just the energy in defence, the willingness to work incredibly hard for each other. I mean, if that's there as a foundation, then moving forward in the championship, it bodes well.
Well, definitely. So if you, just before half time, I think Italy were camped on Scotland's try line. Scotland kept going, they were knocking them back. Their defensive structure was working, and they were just unlucky to concede a try. But I thought they were animated in defence. They were trying really hard. But if you look at possession stats, it was 75 to Italy, so they didn't have much ball to play with in certain areas of the game, which is tough if you've not got the ball. It's hard to do anything.
You can't get territory if you don't have the ball in order to enforce that as well. That's so it's probably one of two. Get the ball first so you can control it.
Yeah, and it's so tiring. Defending for 75% of the first half, it's incredibly tiring.
Yeah, we also had, I think there was 3 or 4 girls coming back from long-term injury as well, so to play in a game like that where they haven't had too much game time coming into it, it was pretty physical for them.
I watched the game though, and you see when especially threats like Chloe Rowley, when she gets the ball, she can change a game, and she did so, but it was few and far between. She just didn't get enough opportunities. Is that a fair assumption of her?
Yeah, I would say so. If you can get Chloe into the game a bit earlier, or get her hands on the ball as much as you can, she's dangerous. She opens up defences, and she almost pushes the team on a little, because she'll make a half break, or she'll make a full on line break, and it gets the crowd on their feet. It gets the girls trying to keep up with her, supporting her, so you can see that kind of lifts the confidence.
What can we expect next week from the Irish? They lost fairly heavily, 51-7 at home to the English. How do you see the game changing then?
Yeah, I think obviously Ireland will come back. they obviously lost to England. They won't be happy with that. You know, they had some individuals who played well as well, but I think they'll try and, I think they'll be physical, and they'll try and take us on up front. But they do have some gas out wide as well. But I think if Scotland stick to their game plan, stick to their processes, then I think it'll be quite a tight game.
And you obviously won last year over in Dublin. Scotland
Yes.
beat Ireland, so hopefully
That was a pretty
twice in
special
a row.
day. Yeah, so we'll be hoping for 2 in a row over
Nice.
Ireland. Yeah.
Well, after the game, we caught up with head coach Shade Munro.
I'm pretty disappointed to have lost in the manner that we did. Having said that, we played well in the first half. We defended extremely well. We were on our own line for about 20 minutes there, I think. So in terms of our defence and the way that we played against Italy the last time, that was really encouraging. We still, however, play too much rugby in our own half. We're quite predictable that way, and then when mistakes are made, we give away sort of huge territory and field position to the opposition, which puts you under pressure. You can't keep defending for that long and expect to sort of come out on top. Having said that, we went up the other end, and at half time we went in at 7-all, so that was hugely encouraging compared to other performances we've had, certainly against Italy. In the second half, the plan was to play a bit more rugby down in their half, but we didn't do that. And that's credit to the Italians, who defended particularly well, made it very difficult for us to get out our half. A few mistakes line-out wise gave them territory in our own half. And again, I think the pressure told, their defence told in the end. Our forwards ran out of steam. We sort of played a bit too predictably. We need to be able to vary our game a wee bit more than we did. And eventually they just sort of ran out of steam, and the Italians sort of class, if that's the way to put it, told in the end. I think the score was a bit unfair given the huge effort that had gone in. Scored a couple of tries in the last 10 minutes, which sort of flattered them a wee bit. But they did deserve to win, but that doesn't detract from the fact that we put in a really big effort, and there were real positives from it.
Lindsey, when you look at the setup of women's rugby, Scotland have got a mixture of kind of part-time professional players, some ex-AIL players who will be full-time, but the English and the Irish, off the back of their sevens programme, there's far more professional players in that makeup. Do you think that makes it harder? Is the gap growing? I mean, Scotland are undoubtedly getting better, but are other teams advancing quicker?
I would say maybe some other teams have the opportunity to train more together, or they've got more time to recover, whereas our girls, I would say, are all professional in terms of the way they approach their training, the way they look after themselves and prepare themselves for games. It comes back down to who's paid professionally to play rugby. You've got England, who've got 38 professional players at the moment, so they're always together. They're always training together. They're always, doing their analysis together, whereas our girls were all over the place in terms of where we're situated. So doing analysis, sometimes you're doing it in little groups, or you're training with your club teams over your national team, because that's where the sessions are.
Lynn, just quickly, the France-Wales game, 52-3 victory for the French, but I believe the Welsh had a bit of difficulty getting to France, is that right?
Yeah, so huge game in France. You guys will know what it's like, but when you play in France, like, the whole town comes out to watch. There's brass bands everywhere. It's a big occasion. But that aside, Wales were obviously travelling to France for their match, and their flight got cancelled, so they had to fly the day of the game. Once they got there, they had a 2.5-hour bus journey to get there, and then they arrived 2 hours before kick-off. Not ideal prep for an international, but I have a feeling it was more than just the travel options that might result in that scoreline.
You guys must have had some pretty interesting bus journeys or travel journeys in your careers.
Yeah, I remember when we the Welsh Scottish League started. For the first few years, we would travel from Edinburgh to Wales every second week. So it was it could be anything from about an 8 to a 13-hour journey, depending when you hit traffic at Manchester or Birmingham. And then jump back on the bus immediately after the game and right back up the road. So it was interesting. You never thought about it when you performed, though, did you? As soon as you got there, you just got on with it. We would go down on the Friday, probably get in late on the Friday evening, have your meal, go to bed, get up and play. But not going to affect on you, physiologically. But you never thought about it. I'm sure the Welsh girls wouldn't be, during the game thinking about how they got there. They would be totally focused on it. But
the French are strong.
Ours wasn't a bus journey, ours was the planes. We flew over to play Toulouse with Glasgow, and the game was meant to be on the Saturday, and our bags didn't arrive. So the game got called off, and it was going to be the next day, and then it was going to be the next day, and they wanted to lend us boots and lend us kit to play this game, and we were like, no chance. We ended up playing them on a Tuesday night, and I don't think I've ever had a more hostile reaction from when I got off the bus. I mean, half of the crowd had turned up just to shout at us because they thought it was our fault that we hadn't played this game. The guys like myself who had the young family who were getting a good night's sleep, we were loving it. It was brilliant. I think we played well in the game as well, actually, so I think logistically it didn't really change the performance.
The only one I remember is when we were over for the Pro 12 at the time in final in Ulster, and we'd had the charter back when you won.
When we had to walk past.
And it broke down.
And the flight got
back.
cancelled on the way back, so we had to stay another night in Belfast.
Oh no, there was a year before as well. So I thought you were talking about when we lost. So the first one,
I remember that
the partners and
Yes.
families plane got delayed. So we arrived at the airport, and like my wife was with our 2 young kids, and us were another number of the wives, and we had to walk past. We thought, hi guys, we're just going off plane because our plane took off and theirs didn't, so they were in the airport until the small hours. But
I think your plane came back for everyone at the airport though.
Is that right?
I had to wait until it dropped you guys and then came back for us. There's people's hangovers were kicking in. It was horrible.
That was nice of us to send it back.
The one in Ulster, yeah.
The one in Ulster, yeah. So we played the final. We'd won the final. You know,
Everyone's buzzing.
We played the final and we'd won the final, so everybody was in an incredible place. We got the bus to the airport. The airport bar was closed, so the boys were beginning to get a bit edgy, and then there was a bit of delay, and then John Manson, the team manager, pulls me over and he says, "Al, it doesn't look as if this is going to go, but if it does go, it'll be in about 3 hours." And I'm looking back at the players going like, we cannot stay here for the next 3 hours. So the decision we'd made would just go back into the hotel. But the hotel weren't expecting us, so we went back into the hotel, we dumped our bags, went up to the rooms, but the rooms weren't made up, so it was just mattresses that were
Do you not remember before that though, everyone was standing at the airport waiting on taxis because there was no team bus anymore, it had gone. They were standing in the rain waiting for taxis. I think it was John Welsh just standing with a trophy going, if I'd known this was what it was like to win the league, I'd have done it years ago.
But I tell you what, it was brilliant because there was nobody breaking up, there was nobody going into town. We all stayed together.
That's
we all sat, you remember, we all sat around and just had a phenomenal
pizza.
night. A pizza and a few beers, Jamie.
That's right, yeah. And the cleaning cupboard got absolutely raided for towels and pillows and all that sort. So now that was beside my room, so I didn't get much sleep because everybody was in there stealing stuff to use as blankets. But yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, sometimes it works for you, these delays.
There was 2 games at Gala on Friday. The Scotland Club 15 took on Ireland Club 15, and the Scotland Under-20s game with Italy. Mossy, you went down to those games, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw them both, yeah. 2 defeats, obviously. You say Scotland lost 23-9 in the Club International, and it was obviously at Gala because the frozen pitch up at Myerside in the afternoon, and to be honest, it looked as if not having a lot of time together to prepare, you learn so much more on the hoof. So the first half was pretty poor. I think it was 13-6 at half time. But I think it was only 3 sessions prior to that the club international team had been together. But as the game went on, they definitely got stronger, and they tried to understand each other's play a bit better. They play again this weekend over in Ireland for the second round of the second fixture. So they'll hope for a better performance. But it was a frustrating one for the players and a frustrating one for the coaches because it didn't really take off. There wasn't really that continuity there that I think will be there this weekend. And then under-20s was quite similar. The first thing I would say about the under-20s was that Italy were pretty good. They were very good, in fact. They came out in top 32-22. They're 8, 9 and 10 all played last year's championship and the Junior World Championship in the summer, and you could tell that the control they had there. Very well coached, very well organised, strong scrum. Could have scored 2 or 3 early tries in the first half but didn't. But Scotland under-20s came back out after half time, scored 2 quick tries, went ahead in the game, were playing much better, but then the Italian scrum kind of took hold and they scored a couple of late tries. So disappointing results, but going back in the theme of what we were saying, the first game of a championship is a little bit unpredictable, but the under-20s will they play back at Nidderdale this weekend. They play Ireland obviously, and Ireland beat England 35-27, so Ireland will be a tough nut to crack as well.
spoke to Scott Lawson about the game yesterday. He's coaching our forwards, and you touched on it there. They went out in the second half and started very well in that second half, and the frustrating thing from Scott's point of view was it didn't do that in the first half. They were slow at getting into the game. It is a young group that we've got in our under-20s. A lot of them have got another year to come, but I've learnt a lot from that game, and hopefully, as you say, it'll be tough against Ireland next week. We need to start well.
There was a bad injury as well, just midway through the second half. Just Scotland had obviously started the second half better, to say. 2 good tries. Connor Boyle scored, then Charlie Jupp, and Rufus McLean scored later on. Jack Blaine set up a couple of those tries. Some of his runs in the left wing. So the Cameron Anderson, the outside centre, played well as well, picking good lines, finding space. But there was a bad injury, a serious injury, just midway through the second half, where the players had to leave the field and go back at the change. One of the Italian front row guys got injured in the maul, hurt his lower leg in a maul. And because they're quite young and experienced, I think that shook up some of the players. It wasn't a nice one, and they had to go back at the changing room 5 or 10 minutes, come back out, warm up and get started again. And that killed the momentum that Scotland had built up in that period.
That's really interesting. So literally had to go off the pitch, kind of gather the thoughts. I mean, in that point you don't know how long you're going to be in there for.
Well, that's the thing, and it was a driving maul towards the line, and Italy scored from it, so they couldn't even take the conversion. So the referee was great right away. He signalled, and they knew it was a bad injury. Players were taken off, and then it must have been between 5 and 10 minutes off the field at least. And the first thing the Italian standoff had to do when he came back out was kick the conversion from the try. He held his nerve and chipped it over. But yeah, even wee things like that. How do you refocus your mind? How do you wrestle that momentum back? That I know they just conceded a try, but up until that point they'd definitely been the better team in the second half.
Well, after the Club 15 game, we heard from Gregor Hunter.
Frustrated, probably most prominent emotion. I think every time we started to get things going, we just started to make mistakes. Or Ireland were really good at slowing our ball down. We couldn't quite get the ball we wanted. So I think opportunities were out there for us. To be fair to Ireland, they were clinical. They took the opportunities well. They're a good team, but definitely feeling in our camp that we could have maybe played a bit better and caused them more problems, make the match a bit more even. But yeah, I think next week there's a lot to work on, but we'll hopefully come out next week with a good attitude and correct some of those wrongs from today.
What was said sort of half time?
Just that accuracy, like we were creating opportunities, but our accuracy wasn't there. It wasn't a lack of effort, but too many mistakes, and our set piece wasn't functioning as well as we'd wanted to. And we're just making a few too many mistakes. We're quite happy with our defence. Their attack was good, especially off turnovers, but I think it's just a little bit frustrating, and we didn't really get that kind of continuity in the second half we wanted. It was quite stop-start, a lot of stoppages, so it just didn't really flow as well as we'd want. But we've got next week, as I say, to work on. We'll work hard this week trying to correct these wrongs.
My name is Jamie Farndale, and I'm currently co-captain of the Scotland Sevens team. I'm speaking having just returned home from stages 3 and 4 of the HSBC World Sevens Series, which were held in New Zealand and in Australia. Both tours had a bit of individual significance. In Hamilton, Scott Riddell, whose name is synonymous with Scottish Sevens and who is already the most capped Scottish Sevens player of all time, racked up a record 70th tournament appearance. And the next week in Sydney, Joseva Nyakavu, the kilted Fijian, very much a fan favourite and an experienced leader and father figure within our squad, ran out for his 40th tournament, so plenty of individual milestones. In terms of results, the 2 weekends saw a mixed bag. We definitely experienced the highs and the lows that 7-a-side rugby can throw at you. In week 1 in Hamilton, wins against a strong French side that impressed across both weeks and a physical Kenyan side were enough to put us into the Cup quarterfinals, where we were drawn against the USA, who at the time and still are the number 1 ranked Sevens team in the world. We pushed them right to the final play, 5 points behind and metres short of their line. A tough call at the breakdown allowed them to kick the ball dead and denied us a top 4 position. But we didn't give up there and went on to beat Australia and Samoa and finished 5th, which is one of the strongest tournaments finishes that our Sevens team has had. Where Hamilton showed us just how good it can be when you're up, Sydney reminded us just how tough a sport Sevens rugby is. We put a huge focus on our first game against Spain, who've had a number of wins against higher ranked teams and fought hard in the rain for a 7-0 lead with a few minutes to play, but a couple of late tries saw them win, and injuries to myself and Harvey Elms, added to by injuries to Robbie Ferguson and Niall Godsmark in the next game, all 3 of whom are important players for us, saw the squad depleted very early on in the tournament, and with just 9 players left, and a number of them playing well out of position, the squad was really asked to step up. Alec Coombs in particular, having just returned from a long-term hamstring injury and played only a couple of minutes the week before, found himself having to play every minute, and while he usually plays in the forwards, found himself in half-back and centre positions and did so really well. And the attitude and the effort shown by the whole team was impressive and can't be faulted, but the challenges proved just too much, and despite fighting most games to within tight margins, we failed to get a win. 4 tournaments in and nearing the halfway point of the season, the squad's in a very good place. Despite last weekend, we found a consistency in performance, and a lot of this is down to JD, our head coach, John Dalziel, and the hard work that he's put into this team for the last year and a half. Sevens teams in the past had been supplemented by bringing in players from Edinburgh and Glasgow for each tournament, but Dalziel started from scratch when he took over last year, and in looking to develop young Scottish talent on the world stage, contracted players from regional academies and from amateur club rugby. And in terms of a development programme, we now have a strong squad of young Scottish players, many of whom were playing club rugby just a year ago. His work with the team has created a squad where now, instead of relying on players from Edinburgh and Glasgow, it is in fact us who are supplying them with players. For example, Mungo Mason and Ali Miller, both Sevens players, played for Edinburgh in South Africa a couple of weeks ago instead of travelling out with us to Hamilton. So it's great to see that go the other way. And this non-reliance on Edinburgh and Glasgow has meant that our squad has been very stable in its selections over the last year and a half. And while developing future talent, we've also been performing, consistently finishing in the top 8 in all tournaments except Sydney this season. And despite that tough weekend, we're still sitting 7th in the table, which, to put into perspective, is joint with our best ever finish to a season. So with none of the injuries apparently too serious, we now have 3 weeks back home to recover and to get ourselves back into some tough training before flying out to the next stop in Las Vegas.
Let's just look at the news then around this week. But some news came out today. Chris Harris is re-signed with Newcastle. Obviously, Alex Dunbar's gone down there as well from Glasgow on loan. Linz, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, and I think the reports from the weekend was that Alex had a good first game, solid performance from him. So
brilliant from Newcastle. I mean, he is terrific at his best. He's probably lost a bit of form. There's a heck of a amount of competition up here in the centres, but I mean, he'd add to any team. Chris Harris signing's great. Now, the only thing from a Scottish rugby point of view is that you've got more than 2 guys there. Gary Graham getting his first cap. John Welsh is there as well.
John Hardy,
Newcastle aren't in a great place at the moment. Now, it might all turn around, and you know, they look at them a couple of seasons ago and they were pushing hard up the top end of the league, but at the moment they're fighting relegation. Now, they've got to do some smart business to avoid that, but we don't really want those guys playing in the Championship, to be honest.
Just another bit of news. Murray McCallum comes into the squad and does Fraser Brown. A big boost for the boys, isn't it?
Huge boost. Fraser Brown coming back. In fact, no disrespect to Jake Kerr, he took his debut very well. He's playing well as well, but Fraser Brown is a player that, you know, at times you could pick him to start in the back row or at hooker. Now, we're very, very lucky to have Stuart McInally in that position as well, but he'll add a huge amount. Now, whether he's fit and well enough for this weekend, that'll be a decision that'll be made later in the week, but it's brilliant to have him back involved. Brings
a level of physicality as well that he's kind of famed for, and if you look ahead to Ireland, if he's involved, we'll need that. Jake I thought did well when he came on, and he's physical as well, but he'll learn from Fraser Brown as well, and Stuart McInally, and hopefully be around for a few years to come as well.
Interesting that Jake was saying earlier on he took a year completely away from rugby.
Yeah, he was involved with Edinburgh Academy, and he went down to Loughborough to study. I think more than play rugby. Yeah. Talented guy, fit as a fiddle.
Did he not used to be an athlete? Did he not used to be a runner?
His brother's an 800 metre runner, yeah. But Jake's he's got an engine on him, and all the fitness tests and stuff he's doing in the academy in the under 20s, he would top the charts in terms of endurance. It's a good player, good talent.
One of the things that annoyed me actually was from the French game, because I don't know if you saw the game, the second half, but when Fran threw that looping pass and it got intercepted by George North, it kept cutting back to a shot of Ntamak.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're watching that in the pub without your mates, or you're watching that with no sound on, you're going to assume that it was him that threw the pass, when it wasn't. He was going to be the receiver of the pass. His first Six Nations, we saw him at Broadwood last year. Mm-hmm. He was phenomenal. I think he's 19 years old. I just thought it was quite unfair. It wasn't him that threw the pass, was it?
No, it was Vaha Amina, the second row. But I know what you mean, and I thought the same. It was actually quite a lot of the coverage had it as Intermac's pass as well, and even now I think the perception was it was him. But no, he tried to make the tap tackle on North, and that was a shot that the camera picked up as he was kind of head and hands lying on the turf. But you're just a sentimental soul. I like that, Jamie.
One other thing from the Scotland-Italy game was the scrums. There seemed to be a lot of time spent around the reset and around the referee getting those right. How can how can World Rugby or anyone streamline that process and get the game flowing, Linz?
Sorry to interrupt, but
okay.
In your experience when saying, right, let's go, let's get this moving, we don't want this happen, we don't want that happen, let's go. I did it at the weekend and nobody even bothered getting going. Everybody just kind of looked at him.
Personally, I didn't like it when a scrum took forever to be set up, and if you had numerous restarts for it, it was annoying. You wanted it just to be set up, done and over with, so you can get on with playing. But yeah, I know it's not for the fans watching. They're like, why is this taking so much time? I'm not really sure how you approach it to make it quicker but still safe.
Yeah, this referee surely won't determine the speed of your process or your setup, because you have to come together as a 3, as an 8 in order to get the timing right to set your height to engage. So the referee can't really hurry that process up, can he?
No,
unless he thinks somebody's doing something to
like
make it harder,
games,
make it harder for the opposition. To be honest, Jamie, to your question, I think we're in a good place with it. The weekend there was a couple of bad examples, but if you look at where it was 3-4 years ago to where it is now,
so it's a lot quicker now.
It's much quicker. Yeah. The scrum's there to restart the game, and it needs to do it in a safe manner. Now
it's not though. It's a genuine contest for the ball.
But I believe it's moved more towards what I'm saying. You don't see as many teams attacking opposition ball, or you don't see as many teams driving for penalties anymore because the refs are telling them to get the ball out.
Yeah, but it's one of the key elements of the game that has to be retained in the laws. It has to be a genuine competition for the ball. So like I think, actually, I said it in commentary on Saturday, I don't think the laws are the problem, because you get games where it's not an issue. You only get now and again a game where it's an issue, and I think it's a mindset of the players. Like it has to be, you can still attack it, you can still be really aggressive in there, but there has to be the mindset that you're either trying to get the ball, and to play, or if it is to win a penalty, then you still have to do it properly. But a lot of the kind of time that it takes is just for use of a better phrase, the kind of faffing about before the scrum actually gets set.
So your issue is
faffing about. Have you ever been in a scrum?
Before it gets set. Before it gets set.
Your issue is not the contents for the ball.
It has to be a contest for the ball.
But that's not your issue though. Your issue is the time it's taken to set them up.
Yeah.
So what if you've got maybe a ref who's not that confident with it? Because coming from the women's game, you sometimes get that. So it might not be down to the players. It could be down to how they see the importance of a scrum, or how it should be set
with
up.
the scrum, there's so many elements to get right as well, isn't it? Because it can depend on the weather, it can depend on each loose and tight head prop. But the thing for me is to play devil's advocate. I get it's supposed to be a contest, but you see now when they put the ball into a scrum, it's not down the middle. It's never straight. But then how's that a fair contest?
Well, how long have we got? Basically, the last year or just 18 months ago, the law came in, the mandatory law, you have to strike for the ball.
Yeah.
So therefore, as soon as the hooker lifts his foot, or it doesn't have to be the hooker, does it? Any front row player lifts their foot, then the team not putting the ball in have an advantage because you've got 8 players on their feet pushing against 7. So in order to kind of negate that balance, what they said was you still have to put the ball in straight, but you can put it in nearer your own side. So your left shoulder, the scrum half's left shoulder goes up the midpoint of the scrum. So it still has to go in straight, but you being forced to lift your foot as a hooker or as a front row player striking the ball and losing the advantage of having 8 or 16 feet on the ground, that advantage of the metre, maybe would it be as much as that, is there to negate the fact that the defending team can just drive over it.
But I'm still not sure where the issue is. The only time I believe in the setup,
time it takes to set up.
The only time I believe there's an issue with the setup is and you'll find this. Some teams like to go down early and they'll be set early. Now, if the other team are deliberately slowing it down so that those props of hookers are in a stressful position, deliberately trying to fatigue them, then the refs completely entitled to say, you guys need to hurry up your process.
But that's my point to Lindsay, that if the referee tells you, would you hurry up or would you just still stick to your process?
You go slower.
I think it would depend. No, but I think you have to play it smart. It depends where you are in the field.
Exactly.
You know what time's on the clock.
So it's back
what's
to
the
my point.
scoreline?
It's back to my point that the players are responsible for that. Now, I was in a meeting once where some coaches, some referees, a World Rugby thing, where looking at the laws, where they said actually on the knock on or the infringement that led to a scrum, you've got 30 seconds to get set and get going. They were going to put a clock on it. To which point somebody says, "What? It was a kick downfield, and after 3.5 minutes, phase of play, and everybody's exhausted, and you know the kicks happened. The fullbacks knocked it on 70 metres away from where the front rows are." And one of the tier 1 coaches was tough. Just get there and get on with it.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. I mean, at times I used to walk to the scrum via the fullback, just because we needed a wee chat to talk about what was coming next. And that depends, 1, how tired you think your pack is, and as Lindsay says, 2, what stage of the game you're at as well.
Well, we've cleared that up, Jamie.
I got served there. Didn't know the rules. Thanks very much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. We'll be back next week with more exclusive content.